request all the audience to kindly come and take their seats in the front rows. Welcome to all of you for plenary session 2, which is on Make in India ecosystem towards global convergence. It's my proud privilege and honor to welcome all the panelists for this session. May I request Dr. Joy Mukhopadhyay, Chairman, to kindly occupy his seat on the dais. I request the panel members, Mr. Lokesh Paik, Mr. N.C. Sriraman, Mr. Sushil Kumar Sharma, and Ms. Saloni Ramkrishna to kindly occupy their seats on the dais. We have Dr. Joy Mukhopadhyay, who is going to chair this session. He is a PhD from Indian Institute of Science and has an MSc from Indian Institute of Technology, Kharagpur. He has a total experience of 40 years of experience in research industry, consulting, and academics. Dr. Joy Mukhopadhyay currently holds the position of COO and Chief Strategist, ThinkCorp Consultancy Services. He is the research guide for management under joint program of All India Management Association and Aligarh Muslim University. He also plays the role of an academic supervisor to Engineering Management Program, University of Warwick, UK. Sir also acts as a resource person for NC UK, University of Manchester, and is a resource person for Edexcel UK. He is the visiting professor for a number of colleges and management and technical consultant to industries. He is the member of Indian Industrial Delegation to Nepal at the invitation of Nepal Ministry of Industry and Commerce, member of Board of Directors for AICTE, CEP in Management, authored study materials for Management Diploma Program for Management and Computer Institute at Durban, South Africa, recognized MBA project guide at Bangalore University, Mysore University, IGNOU, BITS Pilani, Bharatidasan University, Sikkim Manipal University, and Anna University. He is the member of editorial board IJBMI and IOSR journals. A very warm welcome to you, sir, to this panel discussion. Request you to kindly accept a bouquet. Lokesh Paik is the General Manager and Head of Global Engineering Solutions Business at Bosch and responsible for strategic growth in the area of Industry 4.0, IoT technologies, augmented reality, and product development. Mr. Lokesh has a decade plus of experience with a proven track record in managing and scaling up business, integrating manufacturing plant, establishing engineering center, and driving strategic initiatives through people leadership. Having joined Bosch through a highly selective junior management program in the year 2007, Mr. Lokesh has worked in different departments spread across engineering, manufacturing, and corporate functions in India and Germany. He has an engineering degree in automobile from BVB College of Engineering, Hubli, and MBA from La Trobe University, Australia. A very warm welcome to you, sir, for this panel discussion. Who has joined us today, an entrepreneurial, visionary, and accomplished executive leader with over 34 years, continued career progression, and documented history of bridging technical and managerial acumen in turning around of information technology, coupled with insightful exposure to IT management, R&D, product development, program management, delivery management, etc. He has headed many global software research centers, and is a management graduate in IT and has done his BTech Electronics and Communication from one of the oldest institute, MIT Chennai, and holds a degree in physics. He is currently heading his own startup, Metamorphic Networks, which is developing software for connected living, connected community in the area of IoT. A very warm welcome to you, sir. Managing Director of Stratodem Education and Training Private Limited. Mr. Sushil Kumar Sharma holds a Bachelor of Commerce from the University of Delhi, Masters in Business Administration from Indian Institute of Management, Bangalore. He is an Associated Chartered Accountant and an Associate of Chartered Institute of Insurers, London, specialized in reinsurance. He has more than 22 years of work experience in banking, financial services, and insurance industries. A very warm welcome to you, sir. Senior Director, Oracle, with us today. She is the author of Enterprise Compliance Risk Management, an essential toolkit for banks and financial services, and is a reputed columnist. She is a financial services industry practitioner with nearly 3 decades of experience and brings to table rich hands-on knowledge with real-world perspectives in risk, compliance, and performance areas. She interacts with senior management of banks, consulting professionals, and regulators across multiple countries. Ms. Saloni Ramakrishna is invited to share her views on industry trends by national and international finance forums like GARP, Ops Risk Asia, Risk Minds, and Asian Banker, amongst others. Her ideas have appeared as articles and quotes in printed and online media and television interviews. A very warm welcome to you, ma'am.
Good afternoon. I think I have a tough job after lunch. The only thing is, since I am on the dais, I can't afford to sleep, but then there are people on the audience. So it is a challenge for us, that is, we have to keep you awake. So, awake India, please. I have with me 4 stalwarts in their own fields, and you just heard the introduction. Thank you, ma'am, for introducing all of us. I would like the session to be interactive, particularly for our young students, young minds. So please don't hesitate to ask questions. Don't ask any bookish question whose answer can be found in the book, in your MBA book. Ask something which we are discussing or something very practical and very relevant. This reminds me of a story, and I hope you'll enjoy it. That is, Einstein was visiting Princeton University, and he was supposed to be giving a lecture. And one young American journalist who had studied some physics during his BS days, he came and introduced himself and asked Einstein some physics question. And Einstein said, sorry, he blinked. Then this young man said, sir, how can you not answer this question? It is taught in every first year of BS in every American university. As they're already there in every physics textbook. Einstein answered, please ask me those questions which are not written in any textbooks as yet. So please don't ask some bookish questions which will help you score more in your MBA exam. Okay, jokes apart. The way I would like to do it is, I will request each of the panelists here to give his contribution, to speak about what he thinks about the topic. And her contribution, sorry. I'm not being, okay. So our topic is Make in India ecosystem towards global convergence. So Make in India, that is the broad topic, but the global convergence is the most specific topic. So I would expect each of the panelists to talk something about it. And I would do the same way of what was done before lunch, that is after each speaker speaks, please feel free to ask questions. So only thing is I have to manage the time to see how many questions. So I have to monitor and filter the questions if necessary. And at the end, I'll try to sum it up and give my comments. So let me start from myself just to introduce the subject towards global convergence. You would have seen against my name, I'm a management and educational consultant. That's a part. I also represent Warwick University of UK, and that is something I want to talk about here, at least to introduce you. Warwick University is considered one of the best universities, particularly in engineering and management. And there is a group called WMG, Warwick Manufacturing Group. And that was initiated, and I feel proud to say that, by an Indian. Of course, he's a British citizen now, but he's an Indian, and in fact, he was my senior from IIT Kharagpur. That was ages back. So this Mr. S. Bhattacharya finished from IIT Kharagpur BTech, went to England, did his master's, did his PhD, worked in industry, then he joined Warwick University, and then he found the same thing what we are finding today. That is, there is a gap between academia and industry, even in UK. Of course, this was quite some years back. So we formed a group called Warwick Manufacturing Group, WMG, whose basic aim was to have meaningful interaction between industry and academia. And over the years, WMG grew and grew, and then they introduced a new academic program, and I'm associated with that. It's similar to an MBA, but the students don't get an MBA. Students get an MSc degree. It is MSc in Engineering Management. And this course is open only for engineers who are working in an engineering concern and already work for at least 5 years. What are the plus point and minus point of this course? Plus point, big plus point. The students don't pay any fees. Then who pays? The company where these people are working. Why should the company pay? What do they get out of it? Now here comes the industry-academia interaction. The course gives very, very high emphasis on the project work. So if a student fails in the project, he fails the course. And timing for the project is minimum 6 months to 1 year. And the project is a real-life project where the student is working in the same company. So the company is recommending a particular student. Student means an employee who has been working for last 5 years in the same company. So for that employee, it is a prestige issue to get nominated for this course. Entire fees is paid by the company. And the student, I mean the existing employee, the student now, he takes up a real-life project in the company and he has to solve it. So company gets a project solved by an existing student. And then only he gets his degree, MSc degree. So I wish this concept to come to India one day. I talked about the same concept some time back. There was an international conference on management education at Bangalore University. I talked about it. Of course, the time was too short and I don't know how many people could really understand what I'm talking about. But this program is very much alive in India. I have personally, what is my association with this program? For every project that is to be done, there must be 2 supervisors. One supervisor is called the industrial supervisor, who is nothing but no one else but the boss of the student in the same company. The other one should be an academic advisor, which is me, so that the academic content of the project report is maintained. So you don't write one of those office reports and submit to office. You write a report which can be utilized by students meaning other engineers working in other engineering companies all over the world. That's the concept. So I am the academic supervisor for that. And I have done quite a few projects by now and good companies, and my students, so-called students, they are 40 plus, 50 plus, working in company for long, high-level managers, married with grown-up kids. Only thing is they are hardcore techies, hardcore engineers, and they haven't had a so-called formal management education. But they bring in their technical expertise and they learn how to manage engineering. So we are talking about Make in India, so I think what I told you sounds relevant. It is Warwick Manufacturing Group. Now this Professor Bhattacharya, he has donated a huge amount of his personal wealth. He has donated 1 million British sterling pound, his personal money, to Warwick University. And that is considered as the biggest personal donation by anyone in UK towards education. Because of that, he has been knighted. So today is Lord Bhattacharya. He is a member of the House of Lords. He is 70 plus, and still he takes a keen interest in manufacturing. So that is the kind of thing I dream to come to India. That is, our professors in management schools have strong interaction with industry to think that what should be done by the students so that they become industry ready. Anyway, it sounds like cliche. As we say, most of our students are not industry ready, they're not employable and all that. I don't want to say all that. So let's start with something positive. So I have some specific examples in mind, so I'll just talk about one. We're talking about Make in India, and we're talking about global convergence. So let me give an example of 2-3 companies. The one that comes to my mind for an energy-hungry country like India is a company called ABB, and I'm sure all of you have heard that name, ABB. The full form is ASEA, not Asia, ASEA, ASEA, ASEA Brown Boveri. ASSIA was a Swedish company with headquarters in Stockholm, and Brown Boveri was a Swiss company in Switzerland. There was a merger, so now the company is ABB, ASSIA Brown Boveri, with headquarters in Sweden, and that is the largest electrical engineering company in the world. And I think most of you know, they are headquartered in Bangalore with a big factory in Pinia industrial area. Now, the largest company in the world is operating in India for the last 25 years now, and they are manufacturing all those equipments, electrical energy equipments like generators and dynamos and machines and motors, turnkey projects they take up. And over the years, much of it has been indigenized. That means small components are supplied by Indian companies. So that you can take as an example of global convergence, that is of Swedish-Swiss multinational operating in India. And I'm sure most of you would have heard of ABB. But let me mention one more company which I'm sure most of you haven't heard of. So the largest company in electrical energy in the world is ABB. And I think the second largest or third largest, I'm not sure, I think it is second largest. The second largest company is a company called WEG, W-E-G. And that comes from a BRIC country, that is from Brazil. So WEG is the second largest, WEG is the second largest electrical energy company in the world. It's from Brazil, and the relevance here is WEG is now operating in India. Now means it's already more than 5 years now, I think nearing 10 years. And they have set up a factory just across Bangalore. That is in Hosur. So they have a huge factory in Hosur. Most of the components are manufactured here, and also, as Dr. Manohar said in the morning, designed here, the systems are designed here. So you have a Swedish company as well as a Brazilian company operating in India and catering for an energy-hungry country. So I have many more such examples up my sleeves. So we'll start the discussion rolling, and if I have time, I'll give some more examples. Thank you. So we'll start with Raman sir.
Hello. I want to touch upon two simple topics which is more relevant to the convergence part of it. Make in India, convergence part of it, global convergence. One is the marketing, okay. Today, including my company or many people or a group of people whom I know very well, the concept or the marketing idea comes from India. Simple from the medical side or from the medical distribution or MRP type of solution to minimize the cost or maximize the facility, convenience, that sort of ideas, plenty of things which are coming up. The main reason is the market is global. All of us should think or act in a way where our ideas and product today can reach global. There may be some one or two variations from country to country, but end of the day, whether it is an interactive application on your web application on your mobile phone or a full-fledged ERP solution or IoT solution, they have got tremendous market globally, and there are avenues and there are opportunities or agencies which will facilitate these sort of technology over the respective market. In my own company, when I started that whole thing idea of starting is, some of the Swiss companies, Swiss owners showed interest. Why don't we do that? Why don't you design a cost-effective medical solution for monitoring the patients at home? Very simple. And he will give a set of equipments, and he will set the devices which need to be aggregated. And I see now, I live with senior citizens at home, so today even for the people at home to reach hospital is a most difficult value proposition. Okay, so many of the things, no, not only the taxes part of it, cost part of it, but also reachability, because the sick patients cannot go. So if we bring down the doctors or assessment to to the home and connect your own family doctor, it plays a fantastic help to the senior citizens and the living citizens in India. And the similar concept echoed very well in Europe also, and they are the people who are asking me to accelerate the development, do fast. So one of the major thing is in the marketing ideas, when you guys think of Make in India, think of the projects or the problems or the solutions which can reach the whole globe. Today, whole market is one entity. It's a global village. This is number one which I want to touch upon. The second one, which is also most relevant to the students over here, is today the expectation from India is not the cheap labor. It is no longer a cheap labor. We are not at all cheap. We are more expensive than many other third world countries. One of the key things is there is equip ourselves with modern technologies, tools and things like that. The assessment of the global company. I was from Cisco. I came out of Cisco a year back. I started my own company. Assessment of Cisco or any company. I worked in Thomson before. I headed a global R&D before. Assessment of every individual in India is no longer based on the cost, but what is the value proposition he or she is.
Village today. So things are manufactured in one country or marketed in another country, all that. I teach that paper actually, international marketing. I just had my lectures yesterday. So don't expect me to give me one more lecture in MBA class. Instead of doing that, I just read out a joke, not a joke, read out something which I got in my mobile yesterday, just by coincidence. And I hope you enjoy it and get the connection. On my WhatsApp, I got one message sent by one of my schoolmates. And I think my schoolmates are all 60 plus and retired and have nothing to do but send jokes by WhatsApp. So I got one like that yesterday. So the question was, what is globalization? So somebody said the answer is there in Princess Diana's death. I don't know how many of you have heard this before. How Princess Diana's death is connected to globalization. So this is how it happened. An English princess was going with her Egyptian boyfriend in a German car, which was being driven by a Belgian driver who was slightly tipsy after drinking Scotch whiskey, and they were chased by Italian paparazzi, that is the media people, and that's how the car crashed. Now the doctor, who was an American, tried to treat Princess Diana using Brazilian machinery and Swiss medicines. That's globalization. But the second sentence comes now. It says, you are reading this mail sent by me using an American technology, and you are using it on your mobile, which is probably a Japanese make, but actually it was manufactured in Malaysia using Taiwanese components, and the workers were Bangladeshi, and it was delivered by Pakistani truck drivers. So that is globalization for you. So would you like to ask any questions on what Robinson said just now? Marketing is important, everybody understands that. You can make, I think there were some questions and doubts in the morning before lunch, that you become an entrepreneur and you make a fantastic product. Making a fantastic product, what you think is fantastic, but unless you find a market for it, I think we heard the joke about cream for growing hair and hair removal cream in the morning. So whatever you manufacture, you have to find a market. And sir is talking about finding a global market. So not only a market within India, a market which is global, or maybe there are products I am personally aware of, people are making products specifically for global market because those products are not consumed in India. Let me give you a very simple example. Right here in Bangalore, in the suburbs, there's a particular vegetable which is grown and which has become very popular, and many of us don't eat that and don't even know what it is. It's called gherkin. Gherkins looks like small cucumbers, and cut pieces are kept in brine solution, that is salt solution, and is used as a pickle. You may get it in KFC or McDonald's, I'm not sure, but it is a very, very delicious pickle in Europe and US. Now, gherkins are grown here, right here in Bangalore. And there's no local market. It is 100% export-oriented unit. So like that, I hope some more examples will come to my mind, but then I'll go to the next speaker.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman. I have a responsibility here. I am not interested to waste your time. How many of you are students here? Raise your hand, please. How many of you are students? How many of you are students here? Very good. Can I have the screen, please? Say, God. Okay, 10 years ago, I was sitting that side, wondering where am I heading towards? Where is my career?
Hello.
I'm listening to my speakers. Is this session going to help me to really decide the life ahead? You must be in 22nd to 24 of age, right? And you have 35 years ahead. And in that 35 years, you will get an opportunity to sit here and also talk. So there's a screen going to come up now. I have a very short presentation. Being an engineer and a management degree holder, I do come up with slides. And there's an interesting video which is connect to the topic which we are talking about. Make in India, but global convergence. I represent a company called Bosch. I lead a team which heads the Industry 4.0. How many of you heard Industry 4.0? Okay, how many of you heard Internet of Things? Yeah, there are a few hands. How many of you are engineers here? Good. How many of you are commerce? Good. This is where you need to put your bet on. You're wondering, how many of you have gone to the plant, have seen the manufacturing plant? No, okay. By end of this 10th minute, which I'm going to run through it, if I inspire you to go and visit the plant, I've done justice to the weekend I'm spending with you, despite of the fact that my kids are waiting at home, and I'm going to do justice to all of you who are going to get inspired by that. Quickly run through that. There's a huge buzz. Okay, there's a huge buzz around. Huge buzz. Everyone wants to invest and get on to the Goda, you say, of Make in India. There's a huge buzz around India, around the world, and in 2 weeks' time, there's a big event happening in Mumbai on Make in India, and if you are around in India, in Mumbai, you must visit that. When this is happening, there's a strong connector Industry 4.0. What is this Industry 4.0? There's a lot of talk happening. Industry 4.0, there's a huge buzz. As I speak, this is my 7th talk in last 1 month. On the same slide set, same talk to either in CII or in a student event or in a team where German MPs are visiting youngsters or youngsters who's heading a plant. So this is my seventh talk on this. There's a huge hype, and this hype is only going to sustain because it's directly connected to the Make in India. How is it connected? Let's have a look at that. What is Internet of Things? That to do with Industry 4.0. Back in 300 years, 400 years ago, when the production used to happen based on customization. I want to get something done, I'll go to that particular person, he will create, he'll take a requirement and he'll create. Then came a need for mass production because then the realization came in like, let me go and expand, and French started inventing here, Dutch came in here, Britishers came here, so that the economy started growing up, then the mass production came in. Followed by that is electrification, so that the machines were set up, the lathe machines were set up. Now the era is going back. Era is going back for the customization. If you open a mobile phone, I'm sure every one of you have a customized screen on that. Either your photograph or something you would have clicked, that kind of a customization. You need a unique shirt for yourself, you need a unique attire for yourself, you need a very, very unique car for yourself. I was at a Volvo factory recently. Can you imagine how many variants of a trucks a Volvo factory produces a day? How many variants? Any guesses? Number? 20? Okay, good number. Anyone? Just a guess. Number? 200. Very good. You're very close. 16,753 variants. Am I gone mad? No. Walk into the Volvo showroom, he will give you a list of menu where you can pick and choose which kind of a truck you need, what kind of a chassis you need, what kind of an engine you need, how much should be the displacement, how much should be the gear ratio, all that becomes a variant. A person who comes inside the factory early morning, he gets a detailed list so that he will decide like this particular truck has to be designed, assembled and moved out of a factory in 33 minutes. In 33 minutes, he has to ensure that I pick the right product, assemble it right engine, right chassis, right seat, right wheelbases, right tire, everything I have to do it in 30 minutes. That's how it happens. And that's where the Industry 4.0, which is nothing but catering to the customization of a future need, comes in picture. When I say it, why is it relevant for you? The few slides will tell you, because you are going to make a career choice after this MBA. You're going to decide, what is that I want to do? Am I going to start my own company? Great, please do that, nothing wrong in it. But please be aware that it's also good on the company side. I've been working in a corporate. I'm extremely happy there. I run my department as an entrepreneur department. I have a flat organization. I have only 12 people. All the youngsters, as I speak, next week I'm in KIM, Calcutta to recruit 3 people. The era is changing. While I appreciate the previous speakers, whoever has spoken, to take up the startup journey, well, please do it. But at the same time, there is also companies like Bosch, like ABB, like Infosys, like whoever you say, that everyone encourages the younger generation to come and lead the world. And it's very fact that global companies are led by Indian, right? For the very reason that we are the best. Here, the internet is making an impact. Gentleman chairman did mention that WhatsApp, right? Every one of us have a WhatsApp here. Show me one hand who doesn't have a WhatsApp. Everyone, 107 people sitting here, I did the 107 people sitting here have the WhatsApp, and that's the connect what IT is talking about. And we did invest in IISc way back in 2012 on the cyber physical systems, which talks about all of them. And the people working here, PhD holders who have probably not have had an engineering degree, but probably would have had a BSc in data analytics and gone into that PhD into that. So that made 2 key people in the world, Mr. Modi and Ms. Merkel, visit our office. Why did they come? They came to see innovation happening inside the entrepreneurial journey of a company. That's an augmented reality. That's a BMW car. If you want to come to our office, please come, I'll show you. We have taken a new brand, BMW, and we cut it half. We cut it half to see what is there in the engine. That particular app was developed by 3 key engineers from RV College working with us, and they've created an augmented reality where you can just go and put it onto the BMW car engine and it tells you how it works. And that's the innovation I'm talking about. There's a lot we can do. The one which is on the right side you see is the eye care product, reverse innovation. Diabetes can be cured if you detect it much in advance, and that's the eye care product which you have spoken about. Of course, made in India, a Make in India emblem. The reason for that is we have a Occasional Center in Bosch, India. It's been winning 50 times President's Award for the training what we give to outside people. Whoever wants to come in, they can get trained and go out and become the best operators possible. So what we do is, while Industry 4.0 came in, Industry 4.0 is nothing but how do I make my factory the best and smart factory going further. So we have started doing it in 250 plants, and we have been successful in doing that. There are a lot of
The fusion of real and virtual worlds of production will bring about a highly individualized, agile, and resource-optimized mass production, bringing manufacturing closer to consumers.
Texmo Industries was established in 1956 as a manufacturer of textile motors and pumps for the agricultural sector. We have since grown to become the largest manufacturer of agricultural pump sets in the country with a turnover of 800 crore Indian rupees. With a 2,000 strong workforce spread over 5 lakh square feet of production space, we produce over 400,000 pumps annually. In our business, our greatest challenge was to improve our forecasting accuracy. We also realized we had to ensure better delivery commitments by ensuring that our manufacturing systems were both flexible and agile, leading to the right product being available at the right locations at any given point in time.
Texmo had a classic Industry 4.0 vision. To realize this vision, we started off by implementing the smart manufacturing solution. The 3 M's of manufacturing, man, machine and materials, were interconnected by using HMIs, specific adapters and RFID technologies. The entire material flow in the factory was automated and well regulated by this solution. Seamless integration of information and messages were implemented to connect the shop floor with the top floor. In parallel, horizontal integration of key manufacturing functionalities like production, maintenance, stores and quality was brought in so that a single version of truth exists in the entire factory. Role-based manufacturing dashboards with relevant KPIs are deployed to bring in increased efficiencies. At the same time, hand-ons were deployed at suitable production locations and also in key departments like maintenance, setup food and quality. Mobility devices such as tablets are employed to enable users to act quickly during escalations. These escalations could be non-availability of raw materials, breakdowns of machines and quality problems.
Now, with the smart manufacturing solution from Bosch, we collect the real-time data directly from the machines. Hence, there is no question of inaccuracy. This is a fantastic scalable solution which I can extend to the entire factory to enable our stakeholders to take accurate business decisions.
ஆரம்பத்தில் ஷாப் ஃப்ளோர் ஸ்டேட்டஸ்லாம் தெரிஞ்சுக்கணும்னா ஐ யூஸ் டு ஷாப் ஃப்ளோர்லேயே இருக்க வேண்டிய சுச்சுவேஷன் இருந்தது. பட் ஏதாவது செட்டப் கரெக்ஷன்ஸ் செட்டப் சேஞ்ச் ஏதாவது இருந்ததுன்னா நான் ஷாப் ஃப்ளோர்லேயே இருந்து பார்க்க வேண்டிய நேரம். ஆனால் இப்போ டேப்லெட்டில் எல்லா டீட்டெயிலுமே இருக்கிறதுனால ஸோ என்னோட சேர்லேருந்து என் ரூம்ல இருந்து ஐ கேன் மானிட்டர் எவ்ரிதிங். ஸோ இதனால என்ன ஆகுதுன்னா என்னோட ரிசோர்சஸ் மேன் பவர் இதெல்லாம்.
What I meant, make in India, when we talk a lot about it, this gentleman, he reached out to us. We were not sure whether we will go ahead because Bosch a very, very conservative, very slow company because we say invented for life. When we do things, it lasts for lifelong. So when we started Industry 4.0, we were implementing inside. We were not sure to go outside at all. But this gentleman who has studied abroad, is an engineer and a management degree holder, wanted to implement and take his factory to a next level. Why is that required? You know, Industry 4.0 is not India's brainchild, it is Germany's brainchild. Why? Miss Merkel realized that Germany is losing out on an advantage over manufacturing. Everything is getting outsourced to either China or India or any Asian countries. She wanted to retain that. So hence she created this small team which Bosch was involved and gave a direction to all the executives like please create something where we will retain the manufacturing advantage.
I will be showing my back to my panelists, so I thought I'll take the podium and so it's a lot more comfortable. The introduction, if I were to do my introduction myself, I would have said I'm a science graduate, arts postgraduate with business administration, interested in literature, working for a commercial organization. Right, so it's really the question of combination of things you are. You're not your degree, right? You are, your degree is a part of you, but what you are is much larger than that, and that's how I kind of wanted to start. I want to thank Professor Gopal and Director Lata for somehow making me want to come here. Reason is this, I'll just tell you my life last 5 days and the next 5 days. This last Sunday, I traveled to London, which is 5.5 hours behind time for me. Monday, Tuesday in London, Tuesday in the air, connecting from Europe to Asia Pacific, Wednesday in Singapore, Thursday Singapore, and Wednesday in the air and Thursday in Singapore, which is 8 hours ahead, right? And from there to India last night, which is 2.5 hours behind. And tomorrow night I travel to Spain, which is 4.5 hours behind this. What are we talking about global convergence? I mean, the idea really is that it is a converged place into which we need to grow into, right? So the most important aspect I want us to understand is this, you know, these lines are no longer there. It is a converged universe. Question like one of my friends was saying, the future we are talking of is here today, right? So we are into this converged world. The question really is, does my poor body understand whether it is morning or night or dinner time or, I wouldn't know. But the fact is, that is how life is if you choose those kinds of roles. Point 2. The other thing I wanted to tell you was this whole concept of Make in India. I mean, it makes me feel very excited. But the global convergence part is what I would like to focus on. I'd like to take 3 themes and take my personal example for each of those themes that I want to talk. So that, you know, it's very easy for me to go to a Steve Jobs or a Bill Gates, but I'd like to stay with me. I'd like to stay with us, common people, middle class people, people who have, studied and, tried to make something in this world. So let me take those examples. If I looked at the permutation combinations, and by the way, I've never been good in mathematics, but if I look at the permutations and combinations, what would Make in India and global convergence together mean to me? First is I make in India, I sell in India, and I'm happy. Am I? No. Second is I make in India, I get collaboration from outside, but I sell in India. Happy? No. The question really is, we are looking at a collaboration where we make in India, we get the global collaboration to improve, to up our game every time, and at the same time reach out globally to a larger audience, right? So that's really the point. I really feel very excited when I hear the Prime Minister talk about, Make in India in these different forums. My first example is about collaboration. This is my book, which I've authored recently. It's called Enterprise Compliance Management. It is published by Wiley. Where does Make in India and Convergence come here? The first part of Make in India comes because this is written by me. The collaboration comes that Wiley, who are globally known number one or number two, depending on who's saying it, publishers in finance and business come to me and say, will you please write for us? And they publish it. Whereas the global convergence, this book is now available globally, right? So the point really is, it is coming together of these three things that will make this theme work. The second theme is about, one of my friends was saying, you don't work for a manufacturing industry, so how can you make in India? I represent Oracle, I work for Oracle, and I want to show you something, my next theme, which is about the global reach. This, friends, is my passport. It has 8 booklets. Each of them is a jumbo-sized passport booklet. And whenever I take this, people ask me how many people are traveling with me, and I say, just me. Right? And if in this, maybe half of one of the passport is my personal travels. The rest of them are travels because of the manufacturing my industry does, the software industry. We produce products, and these products are celebrated world over, right? So that's what we need to look at. The question is, am I able to produce the kind of product that I want to produce, which is celebrated globally? Is that easy? Answer is absolutely no, it is not. But still, look at the pride of being able to do it. So this was my second theme of global reach. So the limitations or the lines we draw for ourselves about what is industry, what is manufacturing. My friend earlier said it is both services and products, exactly right. So it could be a physical product, it could be a virtual product. When we say Make in India, when people come to us here, and we very proudly say our factory is in Bangalore, and we say that, we say our factory. And then people come here and say, can you please create this product for us? And so that is really the global reach part of it. The third of it, and I think this I want to say it with a lot more seriousness, is the fact that expectation that something will be cooked and given to us is never true. We will have to cook it ourselves. It's very, very important to know that difference. Just now Joydeep ji said, he included me, but the normal style was I will ask him, each one of them, to give their opinion. And I very smilingly said her opinion also. The reason is not so much that he forgot me. The reason is he treated all panelists neutral, as people who are on the panel, I'm sure. Reason I bring this up is, one of the first meetings I went for was at a C-level group in Europe. And when I was told to come for a meeting, I was wearing a sari. The salesperson stopped me right at the hotel room and said, ma'am, you can't come like this. You just can't come like this. I asked him why. He said, this is a European country. You're supposed to be in European formals. I said, please explain to me, do I have to be in formals or European formals? He said, I mean, you will come in, they will not give you any respect. Firstly, a lady, a brown one at that, in a sari, a bindi, and not very tall, of course. So they will not listen to you, and I have got this meeting of C-level guys. So I said, leave that risk to me, I'll go in. And I went in and he was absolutely right. There were 7 CEOs with their teams, and all of them sat back like that. Okay, we have promised this time, we'll give you that half an hour, you talk what you want to talk and you leave. And of course, we started. And in 10 minutes, they were all sitting straight, bending forward, and the session, which was 1 hour, went on for 2.5 hours. That's a different story. Fact is, how did that happen? I spent 3 full days and 3 full nights preparing for it. And this is the important point I want you guys to remember. Aldous Huxley said this: all success is 99% perspiration, 1% inspiration. Please don't forget that. It's very easy for each of us to say, this is my circle of constraint, these are my circle of problems. Only those people who have managed to look at their circle of influence have grown. And this, friends, my young friends especially, please look at your circle of influence. See how you can push those boundaries in a way that it is closer and you are as close to your circle of concern as possible, instead of letting the circle of concern push you down and make your circle of influence so small that it doesn't matter to anybody, even to you. And that, my real temptation of wanting to come here in spite of jet lag, like I said, I really don't know what state I am in, is because I thought I can meet you guys, young people, where for a very selfish reason, all your enthusiasm and youngness rubs off us, and all of us benefit that enthusiasm. But equally important to tell you that there's a beautiful world out there for those who want to see it as beautiful. There is a successful world out there for those of you who want to see it as successful. Prime Minister Modi can go to these places and say, make in India. And I love his turbans, by the way. But anyways, he can say that till that point, till you go, and it is for you to do. It's a relay race. It's not a solo race and win. After that, people will say, okay, I'll make in India. I brought it. Now show me where is your product. Show me its quality. How do you do it? And if on that quality you falter, the Make in India will go the way it will go. So, summing up those 3 themes that I mentioned. First is Make in India is a collaborative effort, and we are an important part of that collaboration. Point 2, Make in India and global convergence is about reach. Reach can happen through entrepreneurs, reach can happen through the services that you produce, and so on and so forth. That's your second. The third one is quality that you deliver is going to be important, and there is absolutely no substitute for hard work. The earlier panel, one of the gentlemen, I think Jyoti Labs person was saying this, says hard work is our only secret. But I kind of come from an industry where we don't understand this word hard work, we understand the word smart work, right? So hard in the right direction is smart. That's really the point that you would want to kind of take. I'd like to sign off, friends. In fact, when I told you about this European thing, and when the session was over, after 2.5 hours, I got a standing ovation. That was not interesting. What was interesting is the head, the CRO said, ma'am, can we have the honor of having you for lunch with us? That from a sales guy who said, they won't let you enter, right? And very important, I would like to kind of emphasize, sit back, don't do it for anybody sitting here, anybody sitting there, no. Do it because you want to make something of yourself. You want to say, I have done it, right? And I can be standed up and counted. Somebody said, why do I want to, blend in when I can stand out, right? And
the end, so we'll go to the next speaker, Mr. Sushil.
The university for putting together 2 fantastic panels. I heard the morning session for some part, and right here. It's really amazing. The problem, of course, is to come after 3 such or 4 such excellent presentations and still try to look good. Tough one, really fantastic. But you know this guy, Narendra Modi, I take the liberty of saying this guy Narendra Modi because from Bangalore South, we campaigned pretty hard to make him win. So somehow, sometimes I feel like he's, Hamara Ladka kind of thing. But no, he's brilliant, okay? Let me tell you this, Make in India is not new, and trust a Gujarati to latch onto it and put it up there. The diamond trade in Surat is probably the first example of Make in India, where the raw diamonds, uncut diamonds are brought in from abroad and then cut, polished and finished in Surat and returned abroad. And everything that you, Lokesh, said and you, madam, said, Saloni, is that right? Yeah? And you, sir, said, and you, sir, said, Mr. Sri Raman, is there in that diamond trade, which is that it's benchmarked to global standards. They are not diamonds cut for poor Indians who can't afford diamonds. So any goddamn diamond cut will do. So long as the poor Indian gets a diamond, it's cool. It's globally benchmarked. And as both of them have pointed out so accurately, you have a fantastic opportunity today. You're making in India 80% of the people that you see on the road that we can blame for the secular increase in price rise in Bangalore are making for the United States or for Europe. If you're working in the Goldman Sachs unit or at Wells Fargo or at JP Morgan or at Deutsche Bank in Bangalore, you start from home, you go to Germany, you go to America, you go to Europe, you deliver for Europe the product, as you so nicely put it, the product, and you return home to India in the evening. That's exactly what's happening in India today, whether it's any of these firms which are typically our client profile, or indeed any of the manufacturing that's done in India for global delivery. So manufactured in India for global delivery. So the key word there is global benchmarking. If you want to be successful to make in India, even if you are serving an Indian consumer, you can't make it like it will chalta hai in India. It has to be globally benchmarked. You may still be selling to an Indian consumer. That's one very important thing.
Interesting diamond policy that we do for the globe, but value addition there, and we know 6 of the diamond manufacturing companies are in red. 6 of the diamond manufacturing companies in India are red, and they are slowly facing out this employment. Problem is there. Rightly, the previous session also it is concluded that marketing gets more value addition. That means what traders get more of us, and we gloss it, we polish the diamond and send it back. So that is one thing. Secondly, Madam said that we sell for globe, but global is looking for Indian market. Globe is looking for Indian market. What is the quality and volume we manufacture for our country? This is what we have to see that. Another question for everyone. See, in Australia is able to sell their pulses for India for such volume, 5 lakh tons, okay? 5 lakh tons, and the price what we cannot negotiate because they are sold the FOB price 140 rupees. They don't have capacity to consume, but they are buying at volume, but they are not able to negotiate lowest price for them. If we don't buy what they produce the pulses, and for whom they manufacture. These questions the government don't ask because we have the valid reason we keep the person we import at high cost. Can we debate on this? Thank you very much.
Customer gets a maximum valuation, no to the order. The guy that does the labor gets the short end of it, right? The donkey works harder than the horse. The glory is for the horse, not for the donkey. And by diamond sector, even your garment export unit from Tamil Nadu, despite years of good business from America, many of them are the golden. One important reason for that is when you succeed, what you do with the money that you earn in success. The crucial reason why the diamond cutters, the garment exporters, all these guys are suffering. They really need to harness their wealth. The other aspect which I don't know if there are any MBA here is the one of corporate governance. There are a number of Indian companies that start out very well and then because of corporate governance issues fail to cement their growth and become enduring institutions. It's no surprise, to me it's no surprise, some of the largest sustainable institutions in India are actually Indian brains spliced onto multinational corporate governance standards. So a Bosch in India may manufacture all this, but an Indian institute can't invent this kit. All the people working in Bosch are Indian, but it won't be invented by an Indian company. A fundamental problem. So how we invest in our future and our corporate governance, that's a big issue. That's a big issue. Bangalore and India in particular owe a huge debt of gratitude and India to UK. So one is Narayan Murthy at UC and the other is Ramodar at TCS. Huge debt of gratitude, including for you. That she was invited to speak in that seminar where she had all the problems with Sari and everything. That she was even invited. I have worked in international consulting as a Bangalorean. You say you're from Bangalore, you get that first choice. Now whether you get a customer or is the second one. Then the third thing is after you become successful, how do you harness your success? Our tendency to think short term and steal money from the situation for today than endure for day after tomorrow is the biggest thing to blame for the short life cycle of Indian companies. For more on the topic, please read the book Gains, Engage, Play by Professor V. Raghunath. Read it, it's a must read for all Indians. Just 150 pages.
I think I'll just respond on the second one. I thought it was more a statement than a question. I completely agree that there are global players who are making for India. China is making a lot of it. For Ganesh Puja, I get Ganesha's items from China, and that is worries me actually more than making me happy. But remember, I spoke of permutations and combinations. So if you have Make in India and global convergence, it is both ways in all aspects. We make for them, they make and they sell to us. Definitely. So the question really is, where is it we want to be the importers, where is it we want to be the exporters, where is it in the value chain we want to be? Because again, from the same example that my friend spoke a little earlier, starting from body shopping of technology to today, if Make in India is products of software, from my industry for example, is happening because we have decided to move up the value chain. So I think the question, as an answer to your question that I leave to this group is, please decide where in the value chain you want to be. Please decide where do you want to be the person who supply and where do you want to be the buyer. So you're on both sides of the coin. With that, I pass.
David, while I agree that government has to have a good conversation so that we will get the best of the deal possible, as a plant leader, I was doing a plant earlier to this. So, this Thomas Lucas, the fluctuation of Indian rupee with a dollar is a huge advantage and disadvantage. Advantage, I tell you, that forces you to do in-sourcing. In earlier practice, it makes sense as vaccinated petrol for universities around BMW. There's a PCB which goes inside, and I used to procure that from Hong Kong. One fine moment, the dollar will start at 50, 52, went up to 69, and my bottom line started shrinking. My boss, who sits in the UK, started calling me, okay, are you going to achieve your bottom line? That's the problem. You have signed up for the X% bottom line, and you cannot achieve it. That forced me to look at what possibilities can I do to resource it? Thanks to Indian government. Indian government has given a leeway to invest in India, and they're going to give me benefit. My finance director came up to me and said, hey, okay, this is the new circular which has come from India. The government has released it, where electronics insourcing, if you're going to invest on the capital investment, you're going to get a direct benefit on the tax. Amazing, isn't it? And people do not know it because the circular which get released is up to that person or a company managing director or anything for that matter. It's his own responsibility to understand what government can do can lead and what you can do. I don't have to again run this. That's a brilliant statement. Correct, but don't forget about what India is going to do, what I'm trying to do right. As a plant head, as a country, in my previous role, I took that advantage and he was able to meet the requirements. Yeah, and this is where I said, while the change has started, again from the second perspective, the scale is very bad. While the population is big and it's also boom, earlier now I'm working sorry to say that we are like 1.2 million. When will this population grow to stop? It's not stopping. And it won't stop. Gentlemen, it won't stop because all the youngsters are going to get married and everyone not happy. Nothing wrong with it. And that's what we are going to do. So hence the opportunities will grow. But the scale is making every one of us, including us, including government, really a problem experience. My dad has been a KS officer. I've seen him struggle with the scale. Because the systems are not in place, the processes are not in place. Hence, as you mentioned, innovation is possible in Bosch or Oracle anyway because the processes are well set. The scalability is so far. Even earlier, the Wipro lady mentioned the scalability is so far, the processes are well set. There is no ambiguity of the processes. Indian companies, sorry to say that two things. Startups when they start, they are looking at people. Other than investing not to make money at this stage. Is investing in startups to ensure that we give that governance to that companies so that they become more ethical and more well-provided companies. With a startup, when you get a lot of money coming in, you become one more Yadav and you screw up the idea of how the companies will be made. And that's the reason. The struggle is that for students, if you want to start something, please go and start a part. Please work in this range for 5 to 10 years, get the pulse of it, understand how the company works, then start doing our success.
The market must actually have the same problem with question mark. And the right of the agency population comes to India and finds out that there is an advantage where for people, they can't fully afford the product. God will have tough time selling the Indian consumer. The second which is the staggering question of scale. Every year, firstly, I don't know how many are aware, 10% of India's population suffers from a handicap of one kind or the other, which means 12 to 14 crore people are handicapped. And every year, a crore or more pass out from that age of enjoying their teens into the age of responsibility, 20. Every year, a crore or more pass from 30 onward without ever having received a paycheck in their life. You are assuming that suddenly 40 is going to become a son or a sadhu after having not heard of people for 40 years of his life. Here I am not there. You don't want to be included. She doesn't want to be included here in her part. But anyway, 40 years, guy who find a livelihood. What kind of demographic time won't have you? So it's really up to you guys and to everyone else. Do this in a way, whatever that job, whatever that enterprise, think beyond yourself. Automatically you will be successful. That money, that fame, that thing, whatever you're looking for, will come your way. The moment you start thinking beyond yourself.
Just one clarification, friends. The startup business that even the previous plenary and now that we're discussing. Remember, many startups start, grow it and sell it at huge profits. So a startup which wants to grow into a full-blown industry versus a startup which wants to grow to a particular level, scale and sell. That's a huge good proposal by itself. Please remember, don't look at startups as, one who starts, he has to do that 100 years. Just for those of you who are looking. You have a brilliant idea, it's grown to a point and there's a huge investment into it. Brilliant, go ahead and go to the next idea that you have. And now you have the money and the flexibility. So think of startups that way, right?
Thank you. I think, as you know, all good things have to come to an end. We have to end it here. I would like to thank all my panelists for being brilliant speakers and sharing new ideas. And from my personal side, I would like to thank the entire organization, Nathaman in particular, for inviting me and to be here standing in front of you and talking. Thank you so much, and I hope you've benefited from this. Thank you.
As a preliminary, if you have any plans, privilege to propose one of plans in front of this gathering. Now I invite our director of the Government Station, Prince Vietnam. Dr. Joy Mukhopadhyay for chairing the session and sharing his thoughts on today's topic. N.C. Raman to relate how to take Indian products to the global market. And to the concept of Industry 4.0. I thank Saloni Ramakrishna for giving us insight into collaboration in Make in India, have collaboration and market it globally.
Thank you so much.
1 second, ma'am. Thank you.
I thank Mr. Sushil Kumar Sharma for giving us insight into benchmarking to global market. I thank
Neha? Yeah. Aisha? Sunita? Okay. Vignesh DS, Nikhil, Manju MP. The same thing is repeated.
I very earnestly request each and every one of you, you should not take more than 5 minutes. Because brevity and simplicity is a sign of wit. In 5 minutes, whatever you want to say, please go to your objectives, your findings, recommendations. That's enough. No introductions, no functions, nothing. So I would request you to
use all of the tolerance. If you use full tolerance, like this is the industry, oil industry in India, where the consumption is per capita consumption is 30.4 kgs for every Indian consumer per annum. Where they are this is the process. We get the raw material in the seeds, sunflower seeds. From sunflower seeds are processed and then stored and then peeling and then packaging and distribution. And this is a case study where we found that in the oil field in the water.
As a PhD holder from SVRC University, a very warm welcome to Professor. I request Professor Gopal sir to kindly facilitate me. Session and all the best to all the participants.
Personality and performance of employees. The time is 5 minutes.
So I want to touch upon those points first. So I will name it as Yoga Way of Human Resource Management. Don't worry that yoga is very little to with the asanas, don't have that impression. So I will touch upon 6.1. I am sure there are a good number of MBA students here. The first point which I want to take is enjoy the basket of needs. The MBA students must have heard a word called hierarchy of needs. Any MBA students here? Okay, proposed by Abraham Maslow. I don't know whether it's misunderstood or misused by people. So basically, hierarchy of needs, how it is understood is first you have to satisfy your physical and security needs. For that purpose, now we can observe in the society, especially in Bangalore, people struggle till their retirement to get the security for their life. In the course, they miss all their family life, social life, prestige, satisfaction, job satisfaction, everything. But the yoga way of HRM says that it is not the hierarchy of needs, it is the basket of needs. This concept is very similar to our Chaturveda Purushartha, which is proposed in the Bhagavad Gita and all ancient texts. That is, all these needs should be satisfied by employee at a time, not in a hierarchy. The second one is remove the feeling of doership. Generally, this is called more as karma yoga. So, yoga does not say that you don't work. It says you have to work. Actually, it says that you have to work in a much better way. In fact, one of the definitions of yoga is yoga karma sukaushal.
Only 5 minutes. Come on.
So make it fast because we have to go for the validity.
Yeah, the validity by another 20 minutes here.
You can say entrepreneurship is one of the backbone of the backbone.
Don't worry about the introduction. Whatever you have found out through your
The function of knowledge, evaluation, and innovation is putting them into practice. So, say we lack creativity in India, and we do not say technically we lack because we do not have enough sources or parameters that support creativity. We have jobs in our environment. Failure is not taken OTP, and we are job seekers more than job givers. So that is where we fall.
So please come to your recommendation. Problems, of course, it's good that you listed all the problems. Please come to recommendation. What do you recommend? Step, very good. Yeah.
We have 2 steps to read out, evaluate it. So there is no criticism. People come up with more and more good ideas. Brainwriting.
Go to the next one. It's all self-explanatory. Go to the next one. Thank you. It's a good presentation. I'm sorry I'm unable to give you time. Some other day I'll give one hour. Thank you so much.
Shimoga. Today we are going to speak about the impact of the manufacturing tradition on Make in India. Now I will tell what is Make in India. Make in India means manufacturing in India. There are 3 aspects which is very important, which contributes to a country's GDP. The one is agricultural, manufacturing, and services. The main aim of this Make in India is to ensure that manufacturing, which contributes 16% of GDP, is increased to 25% in next 5 years. This is one of the important main aim of this Make in India, and this scheme was launched by our Prime Minister Narendra Modi, and it was launched on September 20, 2014. Now I will tell what are all the objectives of my study. The first thing is to know the concept of Make in India, and to know the challenges faced by Make in India, and to know what are all the impacts of manufacturing tradition on Make in India. These are all my objectives. Now I will tell what are all the problems or the challenges faced by the manufacturing sectors. The first one is infrastructure deficiency. That means infrastructure is not only about constructing the new buildings or train faster, but it is about research and development grants, setting up the new enterprises, e-delivery, etc. The manufacturing sector should concentrate on those sectors in order to achieve success. Then the second problem is job skills mismatch. That means studying about the industry is different and working on the shop floor is different. They both are totally different things. So the government has to analyze the important quality of education, and the industry interface is need to be set up in each and every colleges. Then the students is able to find the current trends. Then they are able to know what are all the current trends. Okay, then the agricultural mind, that means even we know that manufacturing sector is able to contribute the GDP, but
another day, 1 hour detailed presentation.
Sure, sir. So it's thinking you think that you can see the chain of entrepreneurship. The next slide is about introduction. We give you a detailed introduction about creativity, innovation, and all that. And the objective of the study, our main objective of the study is to define various sources through which entrepreneur can develop his innovation and creativity. The second time must be clear. We have tried to propose a model which enables the entrepreneurs to develop their creativity and
Only that model you explained, Niram. What is that model? Let us
like I said, the ideas and the model is very important in both in our paper. Because in the model has been created into two parts here. One is the creative process, and another is the model process. Creative process, where how the idea.
What will be the managerial implications of your research paper?
Right now, maybe I am not there. This is a trouble leads to a generation of financial instability. Lower income doesn't access financial product or services. However, recent year, Government of India and RBI has pushing the concept and idea of financial instability. You know why financial inclusion is important? Create a platform for savings, credit avenues, public subsidiaries, and welfare programs. Financial inclusion globally. Financial inclusion is the most
helpful for the beneficiary, for the farmers. That's the main idea, because we can see a recent scenario. The many farmers are committing suicide because of the falling price and the destruction of the production. All this, it can be reduced by using this better database. So,
How are you going to, what step are you going to take to educate the farmers about whatever research and whatever findings you've got? You haven't mentioned anywhere in the research history what is the step that we can take to go about education?
That's a footstone. I just compare.
See, when you do a research, whatever you get, whatever findings you get, that should reach out to the people. That is the main purpose of the research.
That's
right?
what I agree.
Yeah,
But
that's the main purpose. So what step are you taking to reach out to the farmers with the findings that you've got?
yeah, that's what I told for all. Educating a people is a very big task. It's not the one thing.
So what steps are you
So
taking?
we are to be get educated through all the media, and it is the main thing is the government. You can see that all derivatives are everything controlled by the government initiatives, and the same thing also to be initiated in such a way that it should be given for a small, even a farmer who doesn't know to write, put a signature.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So how effective is an education?
It has to be started from the educating like a small children. For example, if the children getting to know about this one, they will educate their parents. We can't educate the parents. When we come into the streams, we can see that the most of the children will educate their parents. Okay, and that's also the main thing. And we can go for using the self-help groups.
True. Basically, even a concept like crop insurance also
Sure.
taken off.
And this is another thing is so vice versa of the insurance.
That's true. Yeah. But one important stuff can be made in vernacular. Any other things,
Sure, sir.
It should be in the local language for the people. That should be one effective stuff. Okay, thanks. It's a novel product which has to be